welcome back to the channel. My name is Sam Merrill. I just got back from traveling 7,000 miles to NAB 2026. I also jumped up to BYU, Idaho, one of our sister universities, to see how their broadcast and media productions operations work. But that can be for another video if anyone's interested in that. But yeah, so for the past 4 days, or not the past 4 days, but 4 days this past week, I was in Las Vegas at NAB. It's been really interesting to go to the show for the past 3 years and to see companies, what they've released, what they haven't released, and kind of how they're reacting to the economy and the industry. Now, if by the end of this video I haven't covered something that you wanted to know more about, please let me know in the comments below and I'd be happy to respond and let you know my thoughts on it. So I'm just going to jump into this. I have my notes here on my computer, but there was a lot of products, so I'm just going to use this to try to spark some memories so I can talk about what I saw. The NiSi booth had the 16mm medium format lens, and I thought that was a really interesting innovation for them to bring forward, because some other lenses in their lens sets already cover medium format at longer focal length. The 16mm was a focal length that hadn't been achieved before. And so they saw a need for that, and they brought that lens forward, and I thought that was really innovative and neat for them to do. This Manfrotto Pro Light Cine Loader bag, I had eyed it when I had traveled to New York before and visited B&H. I thought it would be a really neat camera bag for me to drop my PYXIS into, and some other cameras and lenses and whatnot. But playing with it at the booth, though it was very nice, I did notice that it was really hard to get the main zipper closed, and the rep there said it's kind of been abused during the show. But I tried some others and it just wasn't a great zipper, though I think they are on the right track. I think that bag is really neat. Talking about bags, I was able to come across the booth called E-Image. They had said that they had been there previous years, but I had never really noticed them there before. They had tripods and bags, but I was particularly drawn to some of their bags, and maybe I can get a hold of them somehow. I don't see them for sale on B&H right now, though they do have a number of tripods that have been on B&H for a while and for sale there, so hopefully those go up for sale soon. I can snag some of those and show you guys. So PGYTECH, they had a lot of stuff, but one of the cool things is this phone case. And now it is important to note that it does not currently work with the Blackmagic camera app. So you can plug in the phone into this little USB-C port to have zoom and to have focus, but it again only works for their proprietary app. They did tell me that they're going to be working with Blackmagic to try to get that to work out. But I really like the lenses that go onto the front of that little case. I love the look of the case, and it felt really, really good too. And the lenses were really cute. So hopefully that can work someday. The DZOFilm booth was very busy. They had the new R-less zooms there, and then most popular was the new Arcanas, their budget anamorphics 1.5x squeeze. I was there testing the R-less zooms with one of the DZO reps, and we were comparing the zooms at the same t-stop, same focal length with various amounts of the R-less primes, and looking at the bokeh and stuff. And I would say that it does very much differ than the primes, how the bokeh renders and whatnot. So if you think you can get an R-less zoom and have the same bokeh dreaminess as the R-less prime, unfortunately that's not the case. It is a great build quality, as DZO has always really done. The Arcana were awesome. I love that titanium finish on them. There's a lot of videos and a lot of people out there talking about that, so I won't spend too much time, but I did get the shot showing the side of them, and to show just how much that those rear elements protrude out the back of each lens. They felt great. I compared them to the LEXAR Vipers, and the LEXAR Vipers definitely had a far less noticeable focus breathing. They have a bit more interesting flaring. The Vipers did not feel as good build quality as their Arcanas, and it was pretty drastic to feel the difference between the two. The secondary flare on the Arcanas is very interesting. I really like it. And I do like how the image renders a little bit sharper than the Vipers. I think that would be something that would pair really nicely with my PYXIS 12K. I went by the MOFAGE booth and talked to them. They have the new MOFAGE Poco M2, which actually the VND inside that adapter, so if you don't know, that is a lens adapter that has a VND and other filters that can go inside of it. That VND element sits further back, So previously, like NiSi Athenas and certain lenses with rear protruding elements couldn't easily fit in there. Now all of the NiSi Athena lineup fits in totally fine. I know that the Arcanas would fit in fine and clear just fine with that V&D in there. So that's another really cool innovation to see that they have a nice product and they know, the different, limitations with it, and they address those. Also with the the Poco MOFAGE 2, you can not only change the back elements or the back lens mounts, which you've always been able to do with even the version 1. They can adapt to different camera bodies. You can now change the front from PL to EF, so it can accept EF mount lenses. RODE was at NAB this year. I don't think they've been there for the past 2 years, but it was neat to see them be there and showcase a lot of their podcast setup. But they also had some lav mics that they just developed, and those were really neat to see. I'll throw up some of the specs on the screen here. I did stop by Tamron's booth, briefly chat with them. Personally, I shoot with an L-mount camera. Here at work, I also shoot with E-mount, RF, and Z, etc. B4. Anyways, I was really interested to see if Tamron was still maybe eyeing the L-mount area. They can create some really nice lightweight lenses with great optics. And they did tell me that no, they're not looking at the L-mount alliance and whatnot, that they think that it might be a conflict of interest with Sigma, since they're also, like a third-party lens company. And yeah, so I don't think that's happening anytime soon at all, based on what 2 different reps at 2 different times told me. So just to let you all know. Also, a short little plug in here for Nanuk. They are a great company overall. I just wanted to say that. We own a couple cases here from them, and they've always been a really great company to work with. Each time I go to their booth, they're very friendly, they're very knowledgeable. And I just wanted to throw in here that if you need to buy a case, buy it from Nanuk. Nothing against Pelican or any of the other brands, but I don't know. I just really like Nanuk. I also wanted to just shout out LEXAR. They had some great entertainment at their booth, and they had a lot of giveaways. It was really neat to see everything that they're giving away. I think they even gave away an 8 terabyte SSD, and we all know in this economy right now that is priceless. So shout out to them. And just a brief note on giveaways in general. If you haven't been to NAB and plan to attend in the future, just know that there are some booths that do giveaways at certain times of the day and stuff. But to be just a little bit careful to not get caught up in the giveaway hype. You can find yourself being drawn away from other companies, and maybe that's the point of the giveaways, right? To keep people consolidated around a certain brand, a certain company, a certain booth, so that they don't see the competitors and what's new with them. It can be really easy, time can pass by, so enjoy yourself, go to the giveaways, but just watch the clock and make sure you're still able to see everything that you want to see. It was also really neat to see Atlas Lens Co. bring out a couple of the lenses that were used on Dune to the show. I didn't get a hold of them or anything, but they had them on display, and it was really neat. If you can take a little look at the back there, they have the IMAX camera mount. I've never seen that before. A very large image circle, and it was just really neat to see that rectangular mount on that lens. I also went by this other booth that had a 16mm prototype anamorphic lens. It's the widest anamorphic lens to ever exist. Atlas was even there checking it out because they were fanboying over it. But yeah, I don't know how to say the name of their company, so I'll just plop it up on the screen. And they also used these lenses in Predators and Badland Predators. I just started watching that movie on the plane. I wasn't able to finish it, but yeah, it was a pretty neat lens, and pretty neat to see the flaring out of their lens sets. I was also able to stop by the Kinefinity booth and check out their new camera. They don't know which sensor is going to go into it quite yet, but they believe it will be 6K. It won't have autofocus, but it does have an interchangeable lens mount, which is pretty neat. You can put E-mount lenses, and then also the screen, while it comes out to the side and tilts, it does not tilt when it's up against the body, which I think is a big I think if they created a box style camera and they could have had the screen tilt out while it was still in the box shape, that would have been very attractive for a lot of people without the screen out on the sides, especially with where the ports are. But maybe they'll change that. This camera is just a prototype. The neat thing is the screen is actually an OLED screen, but the downside with that is that it only gets up to 800 nits. And I think people are not really taking that into account, 800 nits outside is not going to be very bright at all. And so that, with those facts, just automatically make it a camera not for me. I love this camera and some of my other cameras. Going on, we have the Laowa booth. Laowa had some really great things around their booth. It's really neat to see these different Chinese lens manufacturers and what they're able to develop and bring out to market and how fast they're able to do it. Laowa has, I think, some of the very best Chinese, manufacturing and build quality and just really unique lenses in their arsenal. They came out with some new anamorphic lenses. Speaking of Chinese lens manufacturers, there was one, Brightin Star is their name. I felt pretty bad for them because they actually lost some of their lenses in transit to NAB. So they got to NAB and they only had a few. But it was really neat to see some of their little ones. I would say with 7 Artisans, Miki, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, TT Artisans wasn't there, but they're kind of similar in that realm. I think that there's a white label company, like a bigger manufacturer, who's making these lenses and then, giving them with some rebranding and some little style changes. But they're popping out these lenses very, very fast. And me and some others that I've talked to believe that that is the case with some of these lens manufacturers. Not all of them. Some of them are doing completely unique stuff just in their companies. But some of them, I think there's a white label company or a white label manufacturer, and then they're rebranding. So something to take note of with that. I've noticed that Indy Pro, the camera battery and adapter company, is one of those sort of companies. Just something to keep an eye on in case you're looking for something that's authentic and individual. Not saying that all of the stuff that they make is from a white label manufacturer, but it's something to compare with other products that are out there. I was also able to go to XLCS Designs and check out some of their new cages for both the Blackmagic PYXIS lineup, but also the Nikon ZR. This is one of their older cages. It's still fantastic. It's actually pretty dang lightweight, but they created a lighter weight version, and I will go ahead and play that video now.
Hey everybody, I'm Will Von Toggen with XLCS Designs. We're here at NAB 2026. This is the XLCS Designs booth, showing off some really cool stuff this year that we're really excited about. Most notably, this is our new Killdozer cage, brand new, showing it off for the first time here. As you can see, we won Best of Show for our Cine D. What's really exciting about this is that this is the world's first weather-sealed cage. The secret sauce to it is that it's fully breathable. That means airflow can go through it, but is impermeable to dust and water. So that this particular one is built for the PYXIS. That means that there is no risk of it overheating. It can still allow for full airflow, but water cannot get in. It allows for full I/O cables to run out the back, up to 8. We also built a weather-sealed housing for PYXIS monitor, so you still have full ability to control the camera while it's in the cage. First time getting it out into the public's view. First prototype here on the table now, so we've still got some testing to do. Expecting to have this available by the end of the year. Yeah, super excited to have it to show. Another thing we're showing are our new PYXIS cages. Our version 1 of this cage was extremely popular. As we were getting ready to do another batch of inventory, though, we thought there were some improvements we could make. Most notably, we thickened up and beefed up the cage. This has seen a lot of field action, and we just thought for the beatings that this was taking, we could do a little bit more to help protect the camera. However, with adding more material, we were risking adding more weight, so we switched material over to magnesium. So while this is a thicker build all around, it's actually lighter than the first version of the cage. Something else we've added, we put a built-in NATO rail on the top. And something else that's really cool is a removable side plate here. Right now you're seeing our side plate on it, but what we've added is the ability to take it out to lose even more weight, or we built a bridge plate here. So you swap this in and it now mimics the side of the PYXIS perfectly. So you can either use Blackmagic's OEM plates on this, or let's say you already bought into the mid-49 side plate, the 8-sin, whatnot, and you really like that side plate, you can now add it onto the full metal jacket cage and get all the advantage of the full metal jacket, plus the advantage of your side plate of choice, plus the weight reduction that we've now done with the magnesium. Another cool feature, unlike aluminum, magnesium cannot be anodized. So we've switched the coating process over to something called Cerakoting. which allows us to bring a lot more interesting colors and flair to our cages. That's why you see here that Killdozer has an interesting color skew to it, and these cages also do. So as we get that more developed, you'll be seeing more color options on our page as well. Then of course, you know, we've brought some of our other popular cameras. Our Nikon ZR cage is here to see. Some of our other ones are out and about on the show floor being shown to other vendors. Little POV camera cages that we're starting to bring out. Another interesting fact about the Killdozer cage is that while it looks extremely big, bulky, and heavy, this is also made completely out of magnesium. So it's also very light and ready to go. It weighs about 1.4 kilograms or 50 ounces. So its magnesium build, again, requires it to be Cerakoted, but its lightweight build makes it ready and easy to take out into the field. And then apart from just some of the other difficulties of coating magnesium, it's also a fairly difficult metal to work with. It's very dangerous to machine. A lot of shops don't want to touch it. When it gets too hot, it has a tendency to explode. And then the fires that result from magnesium are very difficult to put out. And that's another reason why you don't see a lot of magnesium cages, even though it's 33% lighter than aluminum, which makes it awesome for builds like this to keep that weight reduction down. It's just something that a lot of people don't want to deal with for that reason, both the difficulties in coating and that difficulty to machine. But once you start to master that, it makes it ripe for stuff like this. So we're really, really excited to start doing that. We're going to start shifting a lot more of our cages that we already have into magnesium builds, have that sort of be an additional option. And it's going to open a lot more doors for us to bring more options, more complex designs to our cages. And as we move forward with other designs, we're going to try and do some of those offerings as well. And so both Killdozer and the new Full Metal Jacket are magnesium builds. And then again, with this new Full Metal Jacket design, we've dropped, before we had two different versions. We had the Full Metal Jacket, which had a closed off faceplate. It was for the L mount only. And then we had the hollow point, which was for the EF and PL mount. We've dropped that. We're now only going to have one offering for that that'll cover both. And then one other thing here, we cut off the side here to make room for the Poco MOFAGE. That was a modification we added later on, where we pretty much just took it back to the machine shop and kind of rough cut it out. It was a little bit sloppy, but it worked. And so this is something we worked into the design natively and organically to make it a little bit more clean. We know it's a very popular adapter that a lot of people are using, so we wanted to give it the respect it deserved to get into your build. So yeah, just a lot of care and love that went into this. Something else, our 50mm rods that mount directly to the cage are very popular. Again, because our earlier version 1 cage was thinner, those rods protruded a little bit more beyond the base of the cage. So you had a little bit of a lip. And so mounting those to larger tripod plates caused a little bit of interference. We've solved for that by thickening the bottom, so now it'll sit completely flush with those rods in place. Pretty much all the accessories from the version 1 cage will carry over to this. The screen inserts, the adapter locks, the rods, like I mentioned. The only thing that won't will be that back plate, and that's just because we did expand the dimensions of the cage itself. We will be coming out with a new back plate that'll have some other cool options added to it. Other than that, though, you should be ready to go if you've already got the first one, or if you're looking for something totally brand new. And again, if you've bought into another system, you like that side plate, you're going to be able to bring it over to this as well. Just something we're really excited about bringing to market. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next year.
Still in the realm of Blackmagic Design and the PYXIS, I have this video of Ryan from Mid49, and he's going to walk us through not only like the side plate, but some new fun things that they have from Mid49.
So this is our Blackmagic PYXIS side plate. It's a 2 XLR to the stereo plug, which is hidden under here. And then we also go up to the balanced XLR plug, the mini XLR here. And all the wires are tucked in behind the side plate. So it's a very clean way to have 2 channels of XLR audio. The channel 1 is balanced and you have phantom power options, and channel 2 is unbalanced and without phantom power. All right, new for NAB, we have our micro rosette twist mount system. So this uses the same viewfinder mount spuds from our previous products, and we can go onto any 1/4-20 or 3/8. So we have one on our top plate and one on the PYXIS monitor here. And this functions as a monitor hinge. So you can rig this up to shoot in a studio setup. And all of these are interchangeable arm lengths. So if you wanted to get this further away, you could even build it out further. And you can also quickly switch between this arm and our traditional viewfinder arm here. So these spuds are all the same, and makes it easy for quick setup and tear down without any tools.
Super cool. I just love to see these different manufacturers develop really new, cool, innovative solutions for us. And just moving right along, I also visited the Shape booth, and while I found a lot of their rigging to be a bit clunky, it is pretty neat to see their push rosettes. So you push this little button in, and the rosette will go up and down. They have a patent on that. I think they said it might have 3 years left, but they're looking to renew it. Their designs aren't the best, in my opinion, and their prices are pretty high too, for kind of what you get. But they're a legendary company that's been around for a very long time, and they have some really good stuff. Moving along to SmallRig, they finally had a Blackmagic PYXIS cage as well. I had no idea that they were going to release this, and I really wish that they would have gotten more feedback from the community. This cage is very similar to the Tilta cage, except in my opinion it's a bit worse. One pro is that the NATO rails on the side stick out just a little bit further, so you could almost use them as a side handle. If you didn't want a full-on handle, you could use that NATO rail as just a grabbing point, whereas on the Tilta one it's a bit hard to do that. The bottom though has a lot of metal still on it, so it's not, machined out and stuff, and so it is going to be a bit heavier. They did include an Allen key just into the cage like they usually do with their various cages, which is always neat to see and always helps out in a pinch. I know that the top of the cage is still in beta. The top part with the NATO rail is not finished or complete. But yeah, I just really wish that they would work a little bit more with creators to bring exactly what people want to the market. Another little helpful tip, if you ever go to NAB in the future, they do have a new app each year. This year you could create like an account to try to network with people, but they also have a map on there. This year the map wasn't great. It was a weird 3D map. You could go 2D by dragging your fingers, but it didn't show all the names of the companies. It just had the number of their booth. But the helpful tip is if you want to have a 2D map that shows the names of each booth, you can go online and look at the map online on the website, and that will properly show each name of the booth, or each name of each company at each booth. One of my very favorite things to see at NAB this year was the new autofocus adapters for PL mount lenses. Both Viltrox and Tilta came with theirs and were showcasing them. The Tilta one was really great. They had it for E-mount only though. They're working on an L-mount. I'm not too sure when that's going to come about, but it was snappy, it was quick. I used it on both the Sony FX6 and also on the Sony FX3 with the Atlas Mercury lens, and it was doing really, really well, and it was really snappy and nice. Now when I went over to the Viltrox booth, they had theirs for E-mount, and it was working well, maybe not quite as well as the Tilta one. They, though, also had their L-mount one there, and it was unfortunately bugging out just a little bit there at the booth, and so I wasn't really able to mess with it then. But hopefully they're able to lock that in more. It is, not out yet as far as I understand, so they're still working on some things with that. Once this camera gets some autofocus, I would love to pair that adapter, whether from Tilta or Viltrox, with this camera to really test out some of that functionality. I think it would be awesome. ASUS ProArt had some new OLED displays, a 32-inch and also a 27-inch. They were very nice. I love the hood that comes with the 32-inch as well. This 27-inch might come with the hood, but I know they come with boxes as well to travel with. But one thing to note, if you are looking into picking one of those two new monitors up, they get up to 1,000 nits, but I would double check that if you are using a Mac. Last year with their OLED display that they came out with, there were some limitations where it wouldn't hit 1,000 nits on the Mac. This new one, they told me it should work, but they sounded a little wishy-washy on that, so I would double check if you're using Mac and if you're looking at one of those new OLEDs. And I would also note that you would want a very dark room wherever you're working because the screen is very glossy. So if you have can lights up above, they're going to reflect off the monitor onto you, and kind of just be annoying in the shot, unless you can turn them off, right? But something to keep in mind that front is very glossy. A little bit of fun information if you've stuck around for this long. Nobody else has shared about this because they don't know, but we recently made some really big purchases with Sony, and our rep with Sony was able to kind of hint at some stuff while not saying anything directly and anything that he's not supposed to share. But there is not going to be a Sony FX3 Mark II. It sounded like there's not really going to be an FX6 Mark II either, but that there's likely later this year going to be something in between. I don't know if they're going to call it an FX4 or FX5, what they're going to call it, what it's going to entail. So no FX3 Mark II. The FX3A is all that they've done with that FX3 lineup. That future cameras, or the future next camera, will be somewhere in between. I wasn't told anything in specific of what it'll have or the name of it, but I was hinted at somewhere between that realm. So I just felt like that was useful information, also with the timeline to share with you folks. Another very interesting thing to see was the Antigravity booth and to see their 360 drone there. If you are thinking about buying this drone, I think it is very important that you understand that this drone cannot fly backwards. So you cannot reverse with this drone. At the show, I was seeing people flying it straight into the wall, and it was just dropping because they started, to fly it and then realized later that they couldn't reverse. Being someone who has their Part 107 license, I feel like having a drone up in the sky that can't reverse should be like an FAA law that doesn't allow that type of drone. Apparently it's allowed, and it's being made and whatnot, but if I was to buy a drone and it couldn't reverse, it'd be something that I would want to know about. So Core has some really nice batteries. They have some stackable batteries, and then Armando has created sort of like a Pelican case with different stackable batteries and stuff within that just receives power, and it charges all of them. Super cool. He has tons of videos about that, and other people as well. I just wanted to throw that in here in case you hadn't heard about that yet. It's something to check out if you're looking for some really high quality cells inside batteries and a nice way to charge them. With the Core batteries, they had the stackable ones where it could be an NPF battery, it could be, as far as I know, it could be a V-mount battery, it could be a BPU battery, each with this technology built into it, and you stack them and then plug in a USB-C power delivery to it, and it just starts charging them. But I think it is also important to note, the rep there told me that if one battery is at 80% and the next battery is at 20%, that it would first charge up the next battery to 80% from 20% instead of charging the battery that's at 80% to 100%. So just something to keep in mind in case that charging workflow and whatnot doesn't work for you. GoPro returned to NAB for the first time in 10 years, and it was pretty neat to see them come back. It's always refreshing to see good American companies at NAB. They had 3 new cameras. The ILS version is the Micro Four Thirds mount one where you can put on a lens. I think that's a very niche use case, and a bit more niche than people might realize, because that mount is a dumb mount, meaning like there's no contacts or anything for lens information to be passed through, so there's going to be no autofocus, etc. GoPro also entered into the audio game with some new lav mics, and you can use those lav mics with your GoPro camera with a little module on the side. That module on the side of the camera gives you 32-bit float. Otherwise, if you're just using the mics by themselves, they're just 24-bit. So just something to keep in mind if you see one of those numbers and you're a bit confused about when it might be 24 and when it might be 32. I didn't get to spend too much time in the AI section. I went by there in West Hall, and it didn't seem to be anything groundbreaking. If you know of anything that's groundbreaking, please let me know. I've played with a lot of the different AI tools in this space, and nothing's quite there. So let me know if anything's popped out to you. The largest booth at NAB is Blackmagic, and it is always so fun to go around Blackmagic to see what they've announced, to see all their new products in both the broadcast area but also in the production area. This year it was a lot more broadcast heavy. You may have seen that the ASUS Cine cameras can now take a B4 mount, meaning you can use broadcast lenses on them. Something that's really neat. You'll need the module that plugs into the front of the camera to be able to power that lens. It's very neat to see the engineering that's behind that mount. A lot of people think that, oh, it's just a B4 mount. It'll just, it's any other mount. But they actually had to develop glass inside of that mount to work with the RGBW sensor in the ASUS Cine cameras. it's just fun to geek out about that stuff. Later this year, I think we're going to see some more fun stuff from Blackmagic. I'll have a whole new or other video or two about that and my time with Blackmagic, talking with them. I was able to talk with Craig and also Christian Lamb, the PYXIS product manager. So I have a lot of really fun information, a lot of really neat insights. So keep an eye out, subscribe if you haven't already for those videos. There's a lot more that I saw, and so again, if you have any questions about anything in particular, and if I have any thoughts on those, just ask me in the comments or ask me elsewhere. I'm happy to respond. And then also, my wife and I were going to Japan for vacation, and so I'm in the budget for a carbon fiber tripod. If you know of any that you would recommend, let me know in the comments. Probably ones that are a little bit more budget friendly, probably not the Peak Design ones that are $800 plus, but let me know if you have any experience with some lightweight travel tripods.